Hey guys, it's ABEO Hdvr-150 here, back with another review, and today I'm going to be reviewing the ABEO, I don't know how to pronounce that word, so I'm just going to say the letters in the name, Hdvr-150. Now, this is a dash cam, and I happen to have got the free upgraded model that turns it from 1280 by 720 all the way up to 1920 by 1080. In short, it goes from 720p to 1080p. That's 1080p is a new option, and it has a G sensor, so if you're in a crash, it'll measure the Gs. Now, the dash cam is great because it fits in your car really nicely, and it's actually a mirror. And you don't have to replace your mirror assembly. It basically has two suction cups on the back and a clip that moves up and down with the spring, and it just goes over your current rear view mirror setup. It's got a super long wire so that you can route it through the trim, out and around, so it's not blocking your view, all the way to the ground and up to the 12-volt plug in your car, and I'll show you that. But before I go and show you all the cool stuff about it, let me just go over some stuff. The visible area is 300 millimeters, storage temperature, and this is important because a regular camera can't handle this. Because in a car, it can either be blistering hot or freezing cold. In this case, it's freezing cold. It's 12 degrees outside right now. So the storage temperature is negative 30 degrees Celsius to 80 degrees Celsius. Those are pretty extreme temperatures. And it does really work that well. I mean, this thing has been subjected to a lot of abuse temperature-wise. Operating temperature is around 10 degrees Celsius, or negative 10 degrees Celsius to 60 degrees Celsius. Now, if you're worried about the weight of this external device hanging on your rear view mirror, here's some information you're going to want to know. It's 320 grams. It's not that heavy. The dimensions are 315 millimeters by 85 millimeters by 21 millimeters, and this excludes the clamp. This DVR this dash cam is not just for video. It takes pictures too. The pixel format that it takes in is JPEG, and it's 1 megapixel low, so not that amazing. However, the video records in AVI, so it's not compressed. So you can support up to a 32 gigabyte high capacity SD card, so an SDHC, and with the bit rate that it goes at, which is like around somewhere between 3 and 4 megabytes per second, it can take up a lot of space really quickly. But here's the great thing about it, is if it runs out of space, it's a continuous loop system, meaning that if it runs out of space, it'll delete the oldest video to continue recording, so it's continuously recording no matter what. In reality, you really only need the piece of the clip where something bad happened, like you getting in an accident. So it's not too big of a deal, but it also has a nice feature where it says it's seamless because it has to make multiple files. Each file is only like 5 minutes long, and normally with the regular camera, there's a gap between the files in terms of seconds, but it has to end the one file and start creating a new one. There's like maybe a 2 or 3 second gap in most cameras. This dash cam, although it says it does it seamlessly, is not seamless, but it's pretty damn good. In fact, the gap between files, I want to say at the most, is like half a second, which is great because an accident can happen at any second. You want to record it for legal evidence. Or if you're like me, you just want to see someone do something crazy on the road and put it on YouTube. Either way, it works. So, the DVR module, it has a 1/4 inch CMOS sensor. Now, there's a few different sensors you can get in the camera portion of your dash cam in terms of various models that you can get. This one uses CMOS, or COMS, if you want to get the letters there. The viewing angle is 120 degrees. So basically, if you mount this right, you will see a pretty good widescreen picture of cars to your left and to your right. The power consumption is 0.2 amps, which is well suitable for cars, especially if you're using a splitter. It's not taking up much power. It has an LCD monitor built into the rear view mirror, and if you look at the picture, it's right here, and I'll show you that. And the LCD monitor is 2.4 inches with a resolution of 480 by 234. Doesn't sound too big, but for its purposes, it's good for just quick viewing. Oh, and by the way, it's got a rechargeable lithium-ion battery. And basically why that's there is because when you turn the car off, it will keep recording for another 10 seconds. So if for whatever reason there's a power blip in your car, or you just want to restart the car or do something funky that's under 10 seconds, it'll keep recording. So there's no gap in your video. It's always going to work if there's a small power glitch. And like let's say your car stalls out for a minute, you can restart it within 10 seconds, I'm sure. So it'll keep recording in the event that something like that happens. So it also does have a microphone for voice recording. However, I found the microphone is not really that great. You can't hear much of anything going on. The only thing that it might be good for is if you crash, you might hear the crunkling sounds of your car. The camera is also put on somewhat of a diagonal slant, and this is important because your rear view mirror is never parallel. A lot of times when you're in the driver's side to view it, it's at a slant anyway, so it compensates for that, which is great. So now that we've gone over the features of the device, let me take my camera and we're going to go look at the dang thing. Because I'm sure you'll be much more interested in seeing the back than hear me talk about this all day long. So, taking my camera and my now frozen hands, we're going to go in here and you'll see that this is the device. Okay, so here is your control panel. So, the one button says record and the other says mode. And there's also another button right down here, and this controls a few functions. And over here is where you're going to have your little LCD display. So let me get my keys, and I have to have the camera in manual focus mode right now because it doesn't want to focus out here in the cold. So you'll have to excuse me on that. So I'm starting up my car. Alright, so when the red light is on, it means when it's blinking, it means it's recording. See, it's starting to blink. The green button means it's on, I believe, something like that. If I'm wrong about that, I'll definitely post the update in the description or an annotation. And as you can see over here, we've got our screen. And this is showing what's directly in front of us, which, pretty good. Now I have it recording in 720p because 1080p, it records at around 15 frames a second, which just is not good enough. At 720, it actually records at 30 frames per second. So if I want to access the menu to set things up, I have to press the record button to stop recording. And you'll notice that it's gone solid. It is not recording anymore. And then if I hold this button down here, it brings me to a menu. And I can select a number of things, like the movie size, and that's actually the resolution. The date stamp, meaning it's got the time, date, and all that recorded. And that's important for like legal purposes. You can turn the audio on and off and the G sensor on and off. And using the record and mode button, you can switch categories. And then it goes to panel sleep, power, frequency, date and time, language, and you can format the card too. If you want to enter these, you press this, and this is basically your enter in, enter, and then it's basically your select button. And to exit, you hold it, and it exits everything, and hold it again, exit out, and that's the basic function of the device. Now you may notice that there really isn't any wire going anywhere. Well, that's because the wire is so long it allows you to route it. If you needed to disconnect it quickly, it's got a quick disconnect right up here, real close to it, and you can pull it on and off. And basically I've got it routed through the trim all the way down, and then under there, coming up all the way up to here. And as I said before, it uses very little power. So you can have it plugged up to a 4-port car's power splitter, and it's not going to trigger anything to go off and whatnot. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to come outside, and I'm going to turn the car off since we've seen all the features in terms of its functionality. And I'm going to come around here and kind of show you from the outside what it looks like. Now if you look right there, that's the camera, and yes, it is movable. It's adjustable to whatever up, down, left, right position you want it to be. So if I zoom in on that, and I know you guys can't see it too well from out here, and I really don't feel like disconnecting it from my mount in which it's put onto my rear view mirror, because it can be a little cumbersome at times. And basically, like I said, it's got 2 suction cups and a spring clamp, and it pretty much fits on just about anything. So compatibility should not be an issue. It has instructions for different types of rear view mirrors. So I want to get back over to this because, yeah, it works great as a dash cam, but keeping in mind that it's also part of a rear view mirror, you need it to be clear. And look, it is pretty clear. And at night driving, it's kind of got like this auto dim kind of feature, I want to say. I know it's not like that on mine. My standard thing, I flip it back and forth for daytime and nighttime. So it can be a little dim at night, which can be troublesome for some people, depending on how you like it, because there's really no way to auto or to manually set, you know, do I want it brighter or darker kind of thing that most things have. And before I forget, up here, if you see that little bulge, that's the SD card. See, if you want to remove it, you just pop it in, pop it out, bam, you're done. Now, never remove the SD card when the device is recording. If you're going to remove it, stop the recording first, otherwise you will corrupt the file. So, if you want to see videos of the dash cam's performance in terms of what it can record, I will post an annotation to videos in which I have uploaded showcasing the device. So keep in mind, as of like this immediate moment right now, I've only got 1 video up, but I'll post a link to it anyway. But in the future, I plan on having a bunch of reference videos for this device. Now, the price of the device is actually pretty reasonable, if you think about it. It's about $150 on Amazon. Now, the device requires you to have at least a minimum of a Class 4 SD card, meaning the SD card must be able to write at a minimum of 4 megabytes per second. Now, if you remember me saying the bit rate was lower than that, but the lowest thing under that is Class 2. That's not fast enough. You need at least a Class 4. Now, my experience is the dash cam can be, how should I say, a little laggy with its frame rate, even at 720p, in which it should be able to record at a full 30 frames per second. I just haven't been seeing that. And part of me wants to think that a Class 4 SD card just isn't fast enough, because I've got some technical background skills in computers and stuff like that. And to be quite honest, at the bit rate and the file type that it's using, I just can't see 4 megabytes a second doing what 1920 by 1080 has to do, because it's uncompressed. Now, the camera that I'm using right now uses H.264, I believe that's what it is. Yeah, H.264 compression. But that's an awesome compression format. I mean, right now, this video is only 2 megabytes a second. That thing at 720p is using over 3 megabytes a second. So obviously, without compression, the file sizes are huge. And I've seen a 5-minute video file size on this device use up about, I want to say, 800 to 900 megabytes. So that's a pretty decent chunk. So if you're doing long distance driving, definitely get a 32 gig SD card. It's a shame that they didn't add support for 64 and 128, because that would have made the device a lot better for long driving. But for what your purposes are, the point of the device is if you get in a front end crash and it's not your fault, you've got video evidence to prove it. After you've got the video evidence and whatnot, take the card out. You don't need to record anymore. That's your legal stuff. You don't want it to auto rewrite over the stuff that you actually need. So in reality, the best solution in this case, if you're using this particular dash cam, is keep a number of SD cards with you. If something of important nature happens and you catch it on camera, get what you need recorded, stop the film, and pull out the one that you have and put in a new SD card. That way, in case something else happens, you don't have any risk of the important stuff on one SD card being auto rewritten, because that would be very anti-Gusta, if you ask me. I mean, there goes your legal evidence. So, with that being said, I have talked to the tech support for a number of, I want to say weeks now, trying to get things sorted out with the whole picture not being as good as what they advertise. Because if you look at their reference videos that they advertise, you can clearly read license plates. And in my experience with this dash cam, you can't read license plates. It's just not clear enough. I was really hoping that would be the case, but alas, I guess that's asking too much. Although you think it wouldn't be, considering that their reference videos clearly show that you can. Nevertheless, do I think it's a good product? Yeah, it gives you a kind of sense of security. And you know, if something bad happens, you've got proof that it wasn't your fault. But if it's something like it's not your fault and they drive away, well, now you don't know their license plate, so now you can't tell who it is. And that's the downfall of this thing so far. If I can somehow adjust the device so that it can read license plates, I'll definitely let you guys know. I'll put an annotation right now saying that, hey, I figured it out. Here's a video on how to do it. But right now, I'm still talking to the tech support to try and figure that out, because they're not sure why it's not doing it the way it should be, and I'm not sure why it's not doing it the way it should be. Nevertheless, they have been helpful in helping me figure things out. I suggested that the bit rate was way too high for it to sustain good frames per second, and I wanted to know the exact bit rate. And they contacted the R&D department and told me the exact bit rate. That's pretty Gusta, considering the fact that they actually took the time to figure it out and give me within hundredths of the bit rate. And yeah, that's pretty impressive. I like that. And I also got another contact from their tech support talking about, I specifically mentioned the 1080p severe drop in frames. And I talked about that, and they said that, 1080p does about 15 frames a second, so that's probably why. But nevertheless, I'm going to keep trying and seeing if there's any ways that I can improve the device. They said for me to clean the camera and wash my windshield. And I'm going to do that before I do any more reference vids. In fact, I'm about to head out in just a moment to make a reference video for you guys. And since it's nice and bright out, and normally I don't get to see the daylight because I'm a night shift guy. So, all that being said, is it worth $150? Oh yeah, definitely. As far as dash cams go, I'd say this is one of the better ones. So, yeah. Other than that, I hope you guys found the video informative. If you guys can, comment, rate, subscribe, show your friends. I've got plenty of other cool videos. And as always, thanks for watching, guys.